So if you're new around here, 4 weeks ago we bought this truck you see behind me. Although she didn't look like that. She'd just been retired after 33 years of work at the Somerset Fire Service, and she was looking a little bit tired. So we've stripped her out, cleaned her up and given her a good old paint job. And now we're ready to do the final bits of prep before we can start putting her back together and turning her into our ultimate expedition camper.
So since I seen you last, I've got all 6 discs back on and 8 calipers, which is just absolutely mental, blows my mind. But the next on the agenda is to get all these brackets, bumpers and everything like that. We need to get them all prepped and all painted. But first job is the windows. So we went to go put them back in, and since we've painted the body, these windows now look a bit shoddy. So we're going to get them stripped down, cleaned up, painted up. And like everything else in the truck, real easy to come apart. It's just 6 screws and the glass is out.
So while John's getting on with doing the windows, I'm going to get a few other bits cleaned up. And to do that, I'm going to use the trusty Shotblasting cabinet. Now some of you might have seen this before when we did the Sainsbury's build. John pushed his luck a little bit too far and I got my revenge by doing a very thorough and detailed review of this little beauty for Triple T. This is a Shotblasting cabinet. It blows sound on stuff and it's red. Now to be fair, that's not actually an inaccurate description of what it does. It is a very simplistic machine, but it is brilliant and I love it. And especially when I've got jobs like this. So this is the badge off of the front of the vehicle. And as you can see, it's got loads of tiny little nooks and crannies. And there's no way that I could get a good job on that manually. But this old girl can. Let me show you what she can do. What do you reckon? Pretty good, eh? Now for my rusty toe pin. She's like brand new. So now we've got all the sanding and the mending and those bits of prep done, we're on to the paint. And I wanted to have a quick chat with you about the paint before we get going because we had loads of questions about it last week. So if you don't know, you can't paint Raptor paint direct to bare metal. And thanks to the good old British weather, we've had to sand a fair bit of it back to that. So what we're going to do is we're going to paint it with the Ultramax 31 in black, which is the same paint we used to paint the body of Big Red last week. And the reason we're using that is it's a 2K paint and it's a primer and your colour in one. So we can put it straight onto our bare metal. This paint is also a bit of a 2-in-1 for us as well because we're not going to Raptor everything. Some things, like the windows, we want a nice smooth finish on. So we can use this paint for that job as well. But one thing to know with your 2K paints is you're going to need a hardener and some thinners that you mix into it before you spray. And for that job, I'd highly recommend getting some of these measuring cups because they just make the job so much easier. And then before we paint, we wipe it down with some degreaser, or you might know it as panel wipes. But my top tip is make sure you use a lint-free cloth. So let's get going. Why is lint-free cloth so hard to say? Lint-free cloth.
Well, I'll tell you what, Jess, you've done a good job cleaning all this, haven't you? You know, I think you could have cleaned it up a bit more, though. If you'd have given it a hook to and spit on that thing.
Oh, you gotta give him that hook to and spit on that thing, you get me?
Oh, I had to get that in, I'm sorry. And if you don't know what that is, which I think most of you will do, how funny is that? Eh?
Everything is a hook to with him at the minute.
I wish it was.
So it's a couple of hours, a shower and dinner later, but we've decided the weather's too good to waste and we're going to go with the Raptor tonight. So Raptor was actually originally designed to line the tray back of your ute, we call them pickups over here, so it's incredibly hard wearing. And that's why we're going to put it on all our bumpers and steps and anything that's a bit low lying because we want it to last really well, especially with us going off-road. So when you buy your Raptor, it actually comes with its very own little shoots gun, and that will give you quite a coarse texture, but we want to do it with a fine texture, so we're going to use a normal spray gun. And make sure you get one that's got a 2mm tip in it, because that will give you your nice fine texture. The The bottles also come a really clever design, I think, with just the right amount of Raptor in them for you to fit in your hardener, shake it up, put your shoots gun on, and away you go. But because we're putting it through the spray gun, we need to add thinners as well.
Starting to dig this look. Going for the Simpsons today.
Looking sexy. Now for the nerve-wracking bit. Now for the really nerve-wracking part. Let's see if we've got any overspray. Well, the good news is no overspray. But before we go in for the night, we've had a delivery. Autoterm kindly sent us this little beauty. So we're going to partner with them for the diesel heater for this build and for the big fridge for Big Red. But we've learned on some of our trips we could do with a bit more freezer space. So this is a portable 18 litre fridge or freezer, and you can run it off of mains, 12 volt, 24 volt, or because it only uses ½ amp an hour, you can run it for more than 24 hours off of this lithium battery that goes in the side. So you might remember when we did our trip to the Nordics, we did a massive shop in Germany to stock up because we knew it was going to be so expensive out there. And when we went to Morocco, we struggled with finding meat we felt safe to eat, and then we didn't have a freezer in the Defender, so we were really limited. But we met some people out there who had a portable freezer, and they said it was an absolute game changer for them. So that's why we wanted this. So Autoterm have given us a 5% discount for you guys on all of their products. So all you have to do is use the code TRUEBLUE5 at the checkout and it'll apply it for you.
Well, hopefully that is pretty much all the spray painting done for a while anyway, because I am fed up with it. But we've still got a few brackets to do and plastics and bits like that, but that's the bulk of it done. Now the Raptor came out just as expected, really good, really happy with that. But I have to give a massive shout out to the old Ultramax for the red and the black. It came out so nice, so yeah, we don't know about the longevity of it, but it looks good anyway. Now, you might have noticed that I'm not in the same attire as I usually am, and that's because we're not working on Big Red today, because we've had an invitation that we can't refuse.
Now, we were going to take the Defender out for a run today, but it's a glorious 26 degrees and sunny, so only one vehicle will do. Especially because today's activity is all about speed, and you all know how much I love a bit of speed. I wasn't insured on the Sainsbury's van because I had a speeding fine. Well, I may or may not have got a little bit overconfident with my drifting abilities there. And I think we all know who's going to drive. The old Leadfoot.
At least you won't get any speeding fines.
Hello, slow coaching over here.
Flat stick, girl.
I can't wait.
Now we've made it to Elvington Airfield, which is a location for Van Love Fest in a couple of weeks' time, where we're hoping to see you.
But this afternoon, we've been invited down here by Guy from Van Love to meet Ellie Sachs and her husband Harry while they filmed some promo for Van Love in this little beauty.
Now this is an aerial atom. It does 0 to 60 in 2.6 seconds, it weighs 500 kilos and it pulls 2.3 Gs round corners, just like the Pinzgauer.
So the challenge the Van Love guys set Ellie was to be the world's fastest sax player. So she's going to sit in this passenger seat and play the sax while her husband Harry drives. And you can see how she gets on over on the Van Love channel. But for us, Harry has kindly said he'll give us a go. 3, 2, 1. That is the most unbelievable feeling I've ever had. Oh, I can't breathe. My legs are shaking. That was unreal. So it's about time we have a go in the McLaren. It's like a spaceship.
It is mad, isn't it?
So this is Harry, Ellie's lovely husband. He is going to take me for a spin in the McLaren. Let's go.
Let's do it.
I don't know how you accelerate a car. can't keep my feet on the ground. Oh my God, that was unreal. How did that one feel?
I think I left my stomach somewhere up there. It's very quick, isn't it?
A little bit.
It's sweat.
Well, that was absolutely incredible. I cannot thank you enough. Full-blown bucket list thing for me. So we can't go without asking Guy, what is it that makes van love different?
I mean, first of all, you've got an amazing head for speed. Because I won't even get in that area, Lass, and I'm way too
You know I'm the
scared,
Leadfoot.
Yeah, you're amazing. Van love, well, I mean, what makes it really different is the fact that we're on an airfield. I love this venue. We do as much stuff up here as possible, but for van love, it's all about filling the place with like-minded people on this runway, having a party, so it doesn't matter whether it's wet or dry, everybody has a good time.
So there's only 3 weeks to go until Van Love Fest, and we cannot wait to see you guys here for a beer and a boogie. And there's even a chance you might be able to have your own go in that beautiful aerial atom.
Well, what a day that was yesterday. We didn't get home till late last night because we had to make a little stop off because it all got a bit too much for the general. Well, it was a good day until Jess decided to throw up all over herself as we're driving along. But who else did you throw up over, Jess?
All over the car behind us. Bit too much excitement for the day.
Can't take you anywhere.
Oh God, those poor people behind me. But that is the level of sympathy I get from him when I'm poorly. And you'd be thinking, oh, he's so good at doing social media. He's trying to, you know, get all the videos for people. No. Our first trip to Vietnam, we'd only been together a couple of months. I should have known. I got sick on the plane. He's bloody filming me.
So we've had to be sick on planes, boats, bikes and cars. So we're doing all the modes of transport. Anyway, trains are next. But one person did message me and say it was a good job you were wearing a flip face helmet instead of a full face.
Oh God, could you imagine? But anyway, let's get on with this build. So now we can finally start to put her back together again because we've got all our bits and bobs finished off. But there's a couple of little things I still wanted to tell you. First is, if you want to paint any plastics with Raptor, you need to make sure you use an adhesive promoter first because otherwise it will flake off. And the other is a little top tip for painting your bolts and screws and things because they cost a fortune to replace. So all we do is turn an old cardboard box upside down, poke them through the top, makes it nice and easy to paint them. She is looking sexy. Well, welcome to day 2 of bolting Big Red back together. Yesterday was a bit of a slow old slog, but we are starting to get there and I'm so happy with how it's looking. My favourite bit by far though is definitely this badge. I'm so happy with how that's come up. But the biggest and worst job yesterday was putting these bloody windows back together. But I am so glad that we did pull them apart. Because they're sliding windows, there's no way to get into this bit here and clean it all up other than pulling it apart. Plus, all the seals on there were pretty grim after 30 years of muck and mould and dank stuff going on. So today, we've got to get all these fuel tank brackets back on, and obviously the fuel tank on, got the jerry can and jerry can brackets, and we've got the wheels back from the powder coaters, so I cannot wait to get them on. But before we do, we've got a little giveaway for you again this week. So the guys at Retro Campers Norfolk are offering a 2-night stay in one of their gorgeous little vintage motorhomes during September or October for free, or you can have £200 off a 3-night stay at any time of your choosing. So all you have to do to enter is follow the Retro Campers Instagram page, like the post and tag a friend. You'll get an extra entry if you leave a comment and another extra entry if you share their post to your story and tag Retro Campers in it. They'll draw the prize on the 15th of July by random selection. And if you win, we'd love to see a picture of you out in one of those little beauties.
So my first job of the day is to fit the fuel tank. Now it's a good job I took it out and steam cleaned it out, because the amount of gunk and grime that come out of it was unbelievable anyway. So if you do get one of these, especially an old army truck, I definitely recommend doing that. Then I've also got to fit this new fuel tank level gauge because the old one was broken. And then also, because we're going to be running a night heater inside, rather than teeing into the fuel line, what I've done is I've run a separate fuel pickup, and I've just drilled it into the top of the sender, come down, and then I've drilled it into the bottom of the actual filter as well. But I've cut it slightly shorter than the original pickup, so then it never starves that engine of fuel.
So this week on Back to Basics, I thought I'd talk to you about tyres. So one thing you might not know is that most tyres are rotational, which means they're only supposed to spin in one direction. And you'll know that by the arrows on the sidewalls. And they're designed that way because then the tread pattern disperses the water as best as possible and gives you the best grip. This also means that you should only fit them to one side of your vehicle, because otherwise you'll be spinning the wrong way. Another thing you might not know about your tyres is that they're all stamped with the week and the year that they were made. So you'll find a 4-digit code on them. So these say 0224, which means they were made in the second week of this year. But one thing I would recommend is keeping an eye on the age of your tyres, because we don't get to use our motorhomes and our caravans as much as we'd like to. And so the tread on them can quite often look good even though they're old. So after about 10 years, that's when you're at more risk of having blowouts and things like that. And actually, if you're driving something over 3.5 tonnes, the rules now are that you can't have any tyres over 10 years old on your steering axles. I hate waiting for this bit. Oh, it's like popping a balloon. Another little trick John's taught me is if you've got big old beefy tyres like this and your guns are feeling a little bit weary, you can use a shovel to help you get it on. So you just get it in close at the bottom, get the shovel underneath, and then you can use it to lever it up and push it on. Another thing to remember is when you're putting your nuts in, make sure that you do them up as opposites. I like to think of it like I'm making a star shape, and that way your wheel will go on nice and flat and even. So ideally, when you're tightening up your bolts, you want to use one of these little beauties, which is a torque wrench. And the way it works is you set the specific torque that you want for your wheels. So our manual for the Pinzgauer says it wants 200 Newton meters. So I set this to that, and then I tighten them up. Now the reason I want to do that is because then they're not too loose and I don't risk losing a wheel, but also I'm not going to do it too tight and overstretch my bolts. So the way that these torque wrenches work is they give you a little click to indicate when you've reached the torque that you've set, just like this. Now I know, she's perfectly tight. And my last little bit about tyres, because I don't want to be tiresome now, do I? Is that if you ever have to change a wheel and you don't have axle stands with you, so it's like an emergency and you're on the side of the road, what I've always been taught to do is to get my spare wheel and put it underneath here, because then if your jack fails, hopefully you're not going to get squished.
What do you think? She's looking fresh. Now, I'm so glad we painted the bottom of the door, because it just ties it into like one piece along the bottom. And when we get the lockers in the back, that'll infill that a little bit as well. So, yeah, really impressed with how it's come out. And then I can't wait to get the roof on, the shutters on, the roof rack. Oh, it's just, yeah, it's going to look brilliant. But if you're interested to know about the wheels, we pay £40 for them to get shot blasted and powder coated. And I've tried to paint them before, like spray them up, but they take so much prep and they don't last for 2 minutes. So, yeah, that's the way I'd go anyway. But come to the front, because I need to show you something. Now, would you look at the state of the camber on them wheels? Absolutely ridiculous. Now, it will settle down a little bit when we take it for a spin and we get some weight in it, but apparently the way that Pinzgauers are designed, they're meant to sit like that anyway. Now, if you remember a couple of weeks ago what this front end looked like, it's really started to take shape now, and of all the things on the Pinzgauers, I think the front end is definitely the most unique point anyway, because there's just no other design like them. Now, it's time for my favourite part of the day. Time for a bit of triple T. And we've had quite a lot of questions about spray painting, and we've done quite a bit in the last few days. So I think it's about time I stole Jess's thunder, showed you my guns. So firstly, I want to speak to you about shoots guns. Now, these are really easy to use and really crude, and all they do is they suck the material up from the bottom and splat it out the top. And two of the most important parts of spray painting is your air pressure and your tip size. And on these, you run pretty much flat chat air pressure and a 5mm tip, which is massive. So rather than getting a nice spray pattern, it just chucks it at the workpiece, and that's why you get your textured finish. So next up is bodywork spray painting guns. Now this is a little airbrush gun and it comes in really handy if you want to do like little touch-ups and things like that. It's only cheap, so yeah, really recommend getting one of them. And then also I've got 2 gravity fed guns. Now the reason I've got 2 is because I've got this one to do the Raptor, because when you're doing the Raptor you need a 2mm tip to do the fine textured finish, and this was only 20 quid off of eBay, so if I did get it wrecked with the Raptor, it's not the end of the world. And then this is my good gun, which I used to do all the spray painting for the panels and everything like that. Now this is running a 1.7mm tip, and unlike the shoots gun, there's loads of adjustments on it anyway to give you the finish that you want. But one thing I definitely recommend is getting one of these, which is an air pressure regulator, which goes on the bottom, which then means you can adjust the air pressure coming out your compressor going into your gun, because you only want to be running about 30 psi on it. But you can also then use this on your shoots guns. Next up is your Wagner spray gun. Now this is Jess's domain because she's real good on this, but basically we use this to do our cabinetry work because you get a much better finish than brushing or rollering, and it's so much quicker as well. You also get one of these guns, which then you can do all your decking staining and things like that. But the best thing about it is you don't need an air compressor. This little beauty is your compressor. And then lastly is this little beauty. Now this is an airless sprayer, and the way it works is you just dunk that into your tub of emulsion paint. It's got an electric motor inside which pumps the paint out. Now we've used it to do 2 house renovations, and we've painted the whole house top to bottom, ceilings, walls and everything. 2 coats, 1 day, job done. It's absolutely amazing. Now the best thing about it is the spray pattern on it is absolutely huge. So you can't really do small jobs, but if you've got a big job on the go, this is what you need. So like usual, there's not one tool for every job, so you need them all. So you know what I'm going to say, don't you? But I'm not going to say it this week because we've had a little voice note in from Oliver and Toby. So take it away, boys.
A great little tool for the workshop.
Good lads.
So on that super cute note, we're going to leave you there for this week. But before we go, I did want to ask your help with one more thing. And that's if anybody can recommend any re-trimmers, because we want to keep these old seats. They're original, they're comfy, and they fit, so there's no need to replace them. But they are starting to look a little bit tatty, and fixing them is well beyond my sewing skills and the capability of my sewing machine. So if anyone can recommend someone who could do the seats, the engine cover, and maybe a few other bits and bobs, we'd be really grateful if you could put that in the comments. But like I said, we're going to have to leave you there for this week because we're off to pick up the aluminium we've had folded to make the roof. So make sure you come back next week because we're on with fabrication.
Now we've made it to Elvington.
Mocking me.
A mockingbird.
You're a mocking right. So while John's Facebook page, it's not Facebook page, and it's not like. Right. So all you have to hell. So all you have to do hell. So all you have to do to enter is like the retro campers.
Follow. We got following.
I can't concentrate after I've blinked. Our profiles we've had folded from the aluminium. Sake, don't give me that face. I'll give you one of these.